So, this world that we live in is simply a simulation, but not in the way that you might think. So, God, infinite spirit, creator, whatever you want to call him, her, or it, created the simulation and then put us inside the simulation so that we could create within the simulation. Just think of the simulation like an environment. It actually doesn't do anything in itself. So, the environment that we live in is the simulation. Think about the ocean. Now, the environment that fish live in is the ocean, but the ocean doesn't really do much within itself. Yes, there's waves and all that stuff, but in itself, the ocean doesn't do anything. The ocean doesn't swim. Fish swim in the ocean. The same things with the sky and birds, right? The environment for a bird is the sky or the heavens, as you want to call it. The sky doesn't fly, but birds fly within the sky. That's just the environment. Well, the same thing works with the simulation. God created the simulation, but we have creative control over the simulation, but it really determines on what is controlling you. Now, how do we control the simulation? Because this is very important. Because look, God does not care what we do within the simulation. Actually, I'm not saying God doesn't care, but what I will say is that God has no control over what we do inside the simulation. God, like any good parent, wants us to make all the correct choices or the correct decisions, but at the same time, we have free will to be able to create within the simulation anything that we want to create, whether good or evil, happy, sad, good or bad. So then most people would ask, well, then of course, if we have that control, then we would always probably want to create what's good. You would think that, but here's the thing, and I want you to get this, I want you to understand this. You actually don't have free will the way that you think you do. Did you know that? I know that most people say that I have free will to make a decision. I have free will to make this video. If I walked up and slapped an old lady, that means I had free will to slap an old lady. Actually, that's not necessarily true. And science actually proves that that's not true. What you have free will over is simply your input. That's the only thing that you have free will that you can choose. What I mean is that you can choose what you listen to. You can choose what you watch. You can choose what you let into you, but what comes into you will be regurgitated out of you or manifested or materialized out of you. That's what free will is. It's just the ability to receive. Now, here's the thing. If you have been receiving a lot of good things and a lot of positives, well, then therefore your actions will correspond primarily with positives. That's just how it works. If you have been receiving or ingesting either with words or with vision, remember, you don't see, actually what you see sees in you. Okay, remember, a window you can both see out of or also see into. So if you've been ingesting negatives, you watch the news as soon as you wake up, you scroll through social media as soon as you wake up, what ends up happening is those are ingested and you cannot help but regurgitate out or reflect out the negatives because you've been ingesting them. And so if you ever gone through like some really bad depression or you ever have all these crazy anxious thoughts and it's like you cannot stop them, many a times it's because of the ingestion that we have done over our entire lives. And those things start to pop up and come out of our life. So our actions literally are just a reflection of what we have been ingesting either with sight or with ears over the course of our lives. That is what free will is. So what does that have to do with the simulation? Everything. Listen, so if you want to be able to control the simulation, the only way to control the simulation is by controlling your mind. That's the only way. See, God made man in his image. So let me go ahead and break down, because God gave us the blueprint of how to control the simulation, how to create. God gave us the blueprint. It's in Genesis chapter 1. I always go back to this. I swear to you, if you can understand Genesis chapter 1, really the first couple verses, really, you don't need the rest of the Bible. Now, I'm not saying it's not good, but I'm saying is God gives you the formula for being able to control the simulation or to create Remember, we create within the simulation. We don't create the simulation itself. But God gave us that control right there in Genesis 1. It starts out just like this. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now let's stop right there. Let me break this down. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That was before there was no earth, there was no dirt, there was none of that. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So where in the world did God create the heavens and the earth? In the imagination of God. Like that's where it was created first. Anything that's ever been created on this earth by a human first started in the imagination of that person. This Apple phone that I'm filming this on once started in the imagination of Steve Jobs. I mean, I'm just saying that everything starts in the imagination. So this world, the heavens and the earth, was started in the imagination of God. But let's keep going. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was formless, had no form, and it was void, it was empty. And darkness was over the face of the deep, right? And the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters. Now, like, what does all of that mean? Well, obviously, it was empty. There was nothing there. It was void. There was nothing there. It was dark. There was nothing there. But there was this form of water. All right, there's water. Basically, on the inside of you, you have a reflection. See, water reflects. So you have the ability to reflect what's on the inside of you outside. That's like the go-between between the invisible mental and the physical, like actual physical manifestation. So the water is like the go-between. It's where you can see something on the inside. You ever had this thing to where you could see something even though nobody else could see it, but you could see it on the inside? That's exactly what God did. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless, right? You've had a dream that was formless. It was void. There was nothing there, but your spirit or your thoughts hovered over the waters, hovered over the reflection of what you couldn't see, what nobody else could see, but you could see it because on the inside in your imagination you saw it. And then God said, let's keep going. And then God said, let there be light, and there was light. That was the first physical action that we see God take, was speaking. Now, listen, I know that you can't see speech, but you can hear it. In terms of physical vibrations go out to where you can hear what I am saying. Realistically, it's the invisible imagination that's being projected into the physical environment. And then God said, let there be light. And then there was light. Right? That's the blueprint. So whenever, if you want to be able to control this simulation, all you have to do is get an image inside of your mind of exactly what you want. Exactly what you want. You have to get that image, right? Ruminate on it, roll it over in your mind, have your spirit, your thoughts hover over it, and start speaking out the very thing necessary for that to come into fruition. But here's the reason why I say you have no free will in terms of that. Because do you know that you will only see in your mind and you will only speak out of your mouth what you have been hearing in those ears of yours? Let me explain something to you. Words are not just words. So if God said, let there be light, well, in literally, like light is nothing in itself. In terms of the word L-I-G-H-T, it means absolutely nothing unless there's a visual picture behind it. When I say light, most people would think of a light bulb, or would think of the sun, or think of photons, or whatever it might be. Then that is what light is. So the word light means nothing. It's the visual picture behind the word light, which means everything. Words are image containing packets. Remember that. Words are image containing packets. So therefore, every word has an image behind it, has an image wrapped up in it, has an image to it. And so what happens is when you hear those negative words, when you listen to the news as soon as you wake up, you don't just hear the words, you are embedded with pictures, with imaginations that are embedded in you. And what happens is your thoughts automatically start rolling over on those imaginations, and you will start speaking according to those imaginations imaginations, and your actions will start acting towards those imaginations. That's just how it works. You cannot help it. The only thing that you could do, the only thing that you could do to change your life right now is to change what you've been consistently hearing. Because the way to change the simulation, the way to create that the Creator gave us, is to have an imagination in your mind and put your thoughts on it and have those thoughts kind of reflect to where you can see it. Nobody else can see it, but you can see it. And then start speaking those very same words out into physical materiality. This is the formula. But all other people somewhat know how to control you, and they know that they can control you by words, because words aren't just words, words are pictures. Words aren't the thing in themselves. They're just a representation of a picture. And so if I can get you to change your words, then you can change the simulation, because this is the power that God gave you, not any other species, that God gave you as a human, being made in the image of God. You have the power of hearing. See, the first action that God ever took to the human species was he spoke to us and said, be blessed and multiply. Like the first thing that God ever did to the human species was to speak to us, so that therefore we could get the picture of whatever it means to be blessed. We could get that picture, that imagination, and then we could roll our minds over on that picture or that imagination, and then we could start speaking the same thing, because that's the blueprint, because God created us in her image in order to be God's here on this earth. God is God over the simulation. We are God's in the simulation. You have to understand this. If you get this, I promise you, life will forever change. Remember, life is easy. Peace.